I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Zilch are an alt-rock trio from the West Midlands, UK, with Tom Dewhurst on vocals and guitar, Neathway on bass, and Zack Esposito on drums. They play loud, distorted, heavy, groove-laden music with melodic pop sensibilities comparable with Mudhoney, Alice in Chains, Queens of the Stone Age, and, in my opinion, most accurately, Nirvana. On the 20th of June, so already a few months ago, they self-released their EP Cognitive Distortions. I have no idea how I found their music, if I'm honest, but there was instantly a warm and recognisable tone to their sound. So I had to catch up with them and find out more. So Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Zilch, full stop. Tell us about the band name.
We formed back in 2018. And when we were first thinking about names, we were kind of circling around the idea of nothing. I kept suggesting the name Zero, but Cal wasn't really feeling that. And I was like, yeah, it is kind of, unimaginative. And he just said, well, what about Zilch? And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. That was kind of it. And the full stop, I'm not sure. I think I was trying to come up with like a logo for us. And I went on like a typewriter emulator and I just put a full stop at the end. And I was like, I quite like that, actually. We'll leave that in there. That's the whole story. It's not that interesting, I'm afraid.
Well, actually, I was wondering if the full stop was there, because I don't know if you realise that there was a Japanese supergroup formed in 1996 called Zilch, and I thought it might have been to define between you and them.
No, so it was a happy accident that we ended up putting the full stop at the end. But yeah, I think it was a few months after we'd been together. We started getting like loads of Japanese subscribers on YouTube, and we were like, what is this about? And then found out that there was a Japanese supergroup called Zilch, and I was like, right, okay. And it's not just us, there's like a bunch of other bands with the same name.
Maybe you should do a cover by the Japanese band and then you'd keep all the Japanese fans.
Yeah, do you know what? That might actually be a good idea. Maybe we'll check it out and see if we're capable of doing it. It could be terrible.
I have to say, I didn't check them out, but apparently it was formed by a legendary guitarist, so it might be that the guitar work's very impressive, I don't know.
Probably. I think his name was Hyde. I don't think he's around anymore. I think he passed away. Yeah, I haven't really looked into them either, to be honest, and I probably should.
I played Radio Riot on my radio show a couple of weeks ago, which runs parallel to this. And I have to say, I introduced the track as the most Nirvana thing the listeners will hear today. Does that kind of thing offend you, or are you flattered, or how do you guys feel about that comparison?
I don't think I'd ever be offended by it because they're obviously a big influence and, I love their music and I think they're a great band. So I wouldn't ever be offended by it. Tired sometimes when that is like the only comparison we get. So it's been quite refreshing to go onto TikTok, believe it or not. And we've had loads of other comparisons. Some of them make absolutely no sense. But, people have said, oh, you really sound like this band. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to go and check them out because I've never actually heard of them. And there are like similarities there. So it's been nice to have like a fresh perspective.
What influences do the bands have beside the really obvious ones?
Well, funnily enough, our drummer, Zack, he's been in the band since sort of like December last year. He's actually not that big of a fan. He's like a really big music head, like he listens to so much different stuff, but he's not a big fan of Nirvana. But we've got influences from like all over. So like Zack, I couldn't even narrow it down because he listens to so much stuff. It's crazy, but he listens to like a lot of metal, a lot of punk. Same with Cal, a lot of metal and a lot of punk. Same with me as well. But we've all got sort of like outliers as well. Cal and I both really enjoy Bjork. I really like Kate Bush and David Bowie. It's like a melting pot, really, because any music that you listen to is ultimately going to have some sort of influence on you if you enjoy it. I'm like a really big Michael Jackson fan as well, have been since I was a kid. That obviously doesn't come across in the music at all, but I think in a way it probably does somewhere it probably crops it. It might be something tiny in one of the songs or something, like a little nod to it, but it's not something that I've noticed yet. But I'd say our main influences are going to be like punk and metal.
Especially the Michael Jackson. I like that somebody slipped Michael Jackson in, because I've had lots of discussions after recording podcasts where people admit to liking pop music.
When I was growing up, I listened to a lot of 50s rock and roll, Buddy Holly, and a lot of like doo-wop groups as well, some Motown, things like that. But I was like really into Madness and Michael Jackson. Those were like my two first like musical obsessions, which are kind of like polar opposites of each other.
So you formed the band in 2018.
Yeah.
And so far you've released 3 EPs and a whole bunch of singles, but no album yet.
Not yet, no. We are always writing, and at the moment we are writing, and we are starting to come up with new stuff, and that is more than likely going to become an album. Whether we release something in the meantime is a whole other kettle of fish. Because at the moment, every song that we're sort of coming up with, I'm like, oh, that sounds like it could go on an album. We try not to write filler. We try not to sort of go, well, this song is not that great, but we'll just stick it on anyway. We all have to be happy with it and sort of go, yeah, can this song stand up on its own? If you took it out of the context of like a full body of work, would it stand up on its own? And if we say yeah, it generally goes on then. Long story short, yeah, we're working on an album. Yeah.
It raises the question, with the limited attention span of people these days, do you think an EP is often a better option than releasing an album?
I think singles are just a better option nowadays. I mean, you get hardcore fans who want an album. And I mean, I feel the same way about bands that I really like too. Like, I don't want them to just trickle out singles all the time. I want an album. I want something I can like really dig into and sort of get a feel for where they're at musically. So I get that, but then on this, at the same time, when you're as small as we are, I think to get people's attention, you do just need to sort of like trickle singles out. So, I mean, we did a waterfall release with Cognitive Distortions, and we released a single like every 4 weeks, I think it was, which is quite quick, really. But that's the sort of pace that a lot of artists are going at now, and a lot of artists and bands are sort of going at that pace. They're releasing a single like every month, every 2 months, which is quite a busy schedule, especially when you've got to like promote it all yourself and everything. It becomes quite hectic. So I would say that like we probably need to just make sure we've got really, really good songs on there, and then we can just release songs here and there leading up to it. Maybe release a few singles, like 3-4 songs, and then do the rest of the album. But we're not sure yet. We haven't gotten to that sort of stage of discussing how we're going to do it.
Tell me a little about your process when it comes to writing. I mean, you're the singer. Does that mean you're the main songwriter of the band? Do you take ideas to the other two, or does everybody come up with something and you build together?
It's a bit of both. Cal is really, really good at coming up with riffs. I'm not so much of a riff writer, but Cal is. And I think being on bass kind of like lends itself to that as well. I write the choruses because I'm really into like the melody side of things as well. And I always want the choruses to be like catchy and interesting to listen to. Unless it's like a punk banger, like our song Shade, for example, that's just like, it's like a bunch of screaming basically, but that's what it needed to be. That's what it had to be. I do oftentimes I will have a song idea and I'll either take it sort of half formed to the guys and say like, look, I've got this idea, and I'll play it for them, and then we'll just sort of like jam it out and flesh it out, and it becomes the thing just from like the three of us just sort of playing around with it. And then we'll get more ideas and bounce them off each other and stuff. There are times where I'll do like full demos with drums, bass, guitars, vocals, everything, and then send it to them and say like, oh, I've just done this. Like, I've recorded this whole demo. It's there, it's done. What do you guys think? Open to suggestions and changes. And I do a lot of songwriting, but I do always ask for help from the other guys as well, because oftentimes I'll get stuck and I'll go, well, I've got this midsection. I don't really think it's quite there. Do you guys have any ideas? And that happened quite recently, actually, with the latest song we wrote. I had a midsection and I was like, it's kind of boring. And then Zack was like, well, why don't we do this? And it ended up being really cool.
So the latest EP, Cognitive Distortions, came out in June. Tell us a bit more about the EP, the sort of themes and the thinking behind it.
Well, we actually recorded that EP 2 years ago now. 2 of the songs were written at the start of 2023 when we parted ways with our original drummer, Crag. We wrote those in January of 2023, me and Cal did, which was Identity Crisis and Living with Ghosts. Those were the 2 songs that we wrote together. All My Heroes Are Dead is actually an old one. That's from 2018. That was from like when we first got together. And then Spiral was something that I just sort of knocked out. It's probably about a month before we went into the studio to record it. And then Ode to Silence is like a really old loopy idea that I had before the band was even together. And I just sort of wanted to put it in there because I felt that it sort of fit and it was like a good ending for the EP. But the theme is, again, it's just like the human condition and mental health and things like that. You know, Identity Crisis is quite literally about not being sure of who you are as you go through life and sort of questioning your desires and your motives and all that kind of stuff. But there are always like overlapping themes, and there are a lot of things in the lyrics that are very personal to me, so like nobody else would get them, but I try and put them in a poetic way that can sort of cover the way maybe a lot of other people are feeling, you know, so they feel that they can relate to it. But yeah, I mean, the overarching theme in like all of our stuff mostly is just about being a human being, and sometimes how much that sucks, you know. That's kind of it, really. Musically, we're not very political. I don't really want to get into that when it comes to music. Like, I want to play music and sort of feel better afterwards. And we don't write love songs or ballads or anything like that. It's just about what goes on in my brain a lot of the time, I think.
I have to say, harking back to the Nirvana thing, that first track could have been on Bleach.
Do you know what? Somebody else said that recently. And again, Cal wrote the riff for that, the dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. He actually brought it to me. And then when he was talking about working on it potentially, he said, "Oh, do you want to jam on that Incesticide riff?" And I was like, "Which one's that?" And then he played it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that does sound like it could be on Incesticide."
Yeah, no, it's a bit aneurysm-ish, isn't it? The last track on Incesticide.
Yeah,
that's my favourite Nirvana song, I have to say.
And it's a good one. It's a really good one.
So for somebody new to your music, where should they start? What would be the song you'd say, "I think you'll like this one," if you don't, if you like our genre but haven't heard us?
I probably would say Identity Crisis, just because it kind of encompasses everything we are as a band. I think there's melody in there, there's angst in there, there's like a bit of noise, there's a bit of a riff, does everything, and there's like a bit of like a noisy passage in there as well. I know that a few people would probably say Merman, because that's been a lot of people's introduction to our music and is our most popular song. But I don't think it really represents us wholly as a band. I never expected Merman to be what it is. That song is what's helped us gain a lot more of a following and a lot more listeners.
So social media next. Like most bands, you seem to favour Instagram. What is it, do you think, that draws bands more to Instagram over other social media?
I don't actually favour Instagram much, to be honest. I don't really post on there very much. It's TikTok. That's been huge for us this year. We were sort of posting on there very infrequently and didn't really bother with it. We sort of half-arsed it and kind of went, it's not really working for us. Earlier this year in February, I just put up a clip of, again, it was the Merman music video. I just put a clip up of that and put some text over it, just basically saying, if you're seeing this, cheers for listening. That was it in a nutshell. And went a bit mental, and I freaked out a little bit because I didn't really know what to do. There were like, thousands of comments and stuff, and I replied to all of them. As far as I'm aware, I replied to every single one. There was a lot of hate on there as well, but that's a good thing, that we was rubbing people up the wrong way. I quite enjoyed that part of it.
There's that thought, isn't there, that you want people to either love you or hate you. It's indifference that's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that clip alone gained us like over 2,000 followers, in the space that people were sort of watching it. And then we did another post the following day, and that did even better numbers. But again, it was Merman, so like, and that's why so many people have flocked to that song, and that's why I said, you know, it's our most popular song, and it's helped us out the most, which is why I didn't expect it to do that. It's like any social media platform. There's a bunch of variables involved. I didn't really put a lot of effort into that post. I didn't really think it was going to do anything. I just sort of did it because I was like, well, I probably should. And it helped us out massively. So now we've got people that actually travel to come and see us play. People buying merch internationally as well, you know, buying T-shirts and CDs and stuff. I talk to our fans like every day. Yeah, TikTok has been great for us. It's a really good discovery platform for musicians and artists. Yeah.
There's a possibility I found you on TikTok first, but I can't remember. I don't use TikTok very much, but I do find it's very good for finding the occasional gem. But you do have to sift through an awful lot of rubbish to get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the T-shirt that I'm wearing at the moment, this is a band that I found on TikTok. They're from Brighton. They're called Carne. I think that's how you pronounce it, Carne. But they're really good. And I think they've only got like 2 singles out at the moment. I think they're releasing a 3rd soon. That's just like one of the many examples of like really good bands that I found on there since I started posting on there every day. Yeah, you come across some really, really great bands. And it's amazing how many of them are just like flying under the radar.
Most of the bands I speak to have tried TikTok, failed once and given up. So it's nice to hear a positive story about it for a change.
Oh, consistency is key, you know. Like I said, we were really inconsistent when we first started using it. And I mean, we first started using it years ago. We were really inconsistent, didn't really see any results. And then I just sort of forgot about it because it wasn't really a platform that I was very interested in. We're not one of those bands that's really in the habit of like recording every single thing we do. I am starting to get a little bit better at it now. So like I record all of our rehearsals and stuff, but that's more for documentation of like any new ideas that might come up in rehearsal, just so that like there's always a camera rolling. So we know that everything gets captured, you know, so we don't have to go, oh, quick, what's that idea? Like record it quick. It interrupts the creativity.
I really like the simple designs of your artwork. With some of them have a splash of colour, some of them are just black and white with a blue background or something. Who does all your artwork? Is it you guys, or do you get somebody who does it for you?
It was our friend Christian Burton, or Bertie as we knew him. He sadly passed away a couple of months ago, but he did the vast majority of our artwork. I did the artwork for Cognitive Distortions because he wasn't unable to do it. He wasn't well. We had a whole conversation about that. But yeah, prior to that, it was like 99% that did all of our artwork. We are going to have to go through the very horrible process of trying to find somebody else who was as good as him. And I don't think we ever will, to be honest. You know, I think we'll find people that will be really, really good and they'll probably blow us away and do a really great job. But Bert and I had like a really good understanding, and we used to be able to bounce ideas off each other. And that was how we came up with the ideas for all the artwork and stuff. Antidote Design Company was the name of like his brand.
So how about live shows? I did see that you have a show coming up next weekend. What else do you have planned?
At the moment, so we're playing Dive in Wolverhampton on the 25th of October. We do have a couple of December shows booked, back to back actually, the 20th and the 21st, and they're both in Birmingham. So we're playing the Sunflower Lounge on the 20th of December, and we're playing a place called Jojo Gyms on the 21st. That's all we've got booked in at the moment.
And what else do you have coming up? I mean, you say that you've been working on some new songs. Is there anything penciled in for the next release or anything like that at the moment?
Nothing penciled in, no. We are going to be going into the studio, hopefully before the end of the year. If not, it will be the start of next year to start working on the album. I think we're going to have to do it in chunks because we're quite poor. We're a working band, you know. We do have some money set aside for things like that, but we've got other things that we also need to take care of financially. But we are in chats with our good friend Dave Draper, who actually produced the Cognitive Distortions EP, and he also produced our first EP, Cigars and Diazepam. So I think we'll be going to him to do the album because he's a good dude, and he's got a lot of work under his belt as well, like a lot of good releases under his belt. He's just really good at his job. He's really, really great at doing it, and he enjoys it, which is the main thing. You know, he loves what he does. I don't think we could work with somebody who didn't.
it helps when you find somebody that gets you and gets what you want to do as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So the final question: what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
So again, Mudhoney, definitely go and check them out. They're really, really good. There's another band, Birmingham-based, called Terminals. They've just started popping up on TikTok. They've got that sort of really good contrast of being really, really heavy, filthy riffs with like super clean melodic vocals, but not in an annoying way. It's really, really good and it's well thought out. It's almost like if Jeff Buckley decided to do like something with sprinkles of nu metal and like a bit of Deftones in there as well. So really, really good, interesting mix there. But yeah, definitely check out Terminals as well. They're really good.
So for anyone wishing to find out more, you're definitely on TikTok. You're an occasional user of Instagram, even more occasional on Facebook.
Yeah.
You have a Bandcamp, but I noticed you also have an X that you've never used.
Oh, X. Yeah.
You've got a few hundred followers on X.
I never really got. I don't call it X either. I still call it Twitter because that's how out of touch I am. But I feel like a lot of other people do that just to spite Elon Musk as well. But yeah, never really got it. It's one of those things. It's almost like X is kind of like a journal, I guess, and I don't really have any daily thoughts that I think people would find too interesting. And any time that we did post on there, it didn't really do anything for us. I didn't really talk to anybody on there, you know, like didn't have conversations with people who liked our music and stuff, or really anybody for that matter. So like, yeah, no, we don't use it. I never really got it, to be honest. It's just kind of there.
You can find Zilch EPs, many singles on Bandcamp and all streaming platforms. Tom, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to hearing some new material next year.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll get right to it. Thanks for having me.